guys, it's Sarah, and today I wanted to talk about a topic that I have been getting a lot of questions on lately. So today I want to kind of talk about how I get review copies, how I get ARCs, which are advanced reader copies of books, and how I get review books from publishers in order to read and review them, and they send them to me for free, which is something I'm very, very grateful for. So I'm going to tell you kind of how I got started on that and some tips for if you want to get started in trying to do that. And then actually towards the end, I will let you know a couple extra little secrets as well. All right, so first I will talk about ARCs, which are Advanced Reader Copies, ARC. And these are books that publishers send out ahead of the release date so that book bloggers and booktubers and bookstagrammers and anybody who has a social media platform surrounding books can start sharing these books. That's so that people know that they're upcoming and you can start talking about them and you can start reading them and letting people know what you think. And it's all publicity, basically. Now, an ARC is usually in the form of a paperback. It's usually oversized as well. And I have a couple here to show you, for example. So one of them is a book that I just recently read. And this is Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. And as you can see, like on the bottom, it says advanced reader copy, March 2018, and not for sale. They will have all that kind of stuff. And then the back is all like publicity stuff. So there's not a ton of synopsis or anything on the back. It's usually all publicity. On the spine here, it has the release date, advanced reading copy coming March 2018. So that is how this is a little bit different. This is also a oversized paperback, which is my favorite. So that's one example. I do have another example here, which is The Breakdown by B.A. Paris. And, it has here in the corner, advanced reader copy and the date. So, and then, on sale and all the publicity and stuff on the back. So that's how these differ from like a regular paperback or a hard cover. These are not final covers. A lot of times they will also not be the completed book. I mean, it's the completed story, but there could be some edits that still need to be made. They do ask you not to quote the books because it could, certain things could be changing. I have heard that there have been ARCs that have gone out and then the author completely changed the ending. That's a little bit unusual. That hasn't happened very often, but for the most part, you can bet that if they're going to take the time to print a book, it's going to be as close to the finished version as possible. But there could be some typos or, mispronunciations or something just because it's not completely finished. So that is a little bit of a risk that you take if you decide to try to get your hands on some of these. I haven't had any issues as far as these go. But so this is like a physical form of an ARC that publishers like to send out. I've also had publishers send me finished copies of books, especially if they're only coming out in paperback. They'll wait and they'll send me a finished copy of a book, or if they decide not to do ARCs. Some companies decide not to do ARCs for certain books, and you just get a finished copy a few weeks ahead of time. One example of that for me is I just recently got 99% Mine by Sally Thorne. This comes out at the end of January, and I just got this in the mail as a surprise. I had no idea I was getting it. So that's pretty awesome. But this is a finished copy because they did not send out ARCs as far as I know, and they are just sending out early copies to reviewers. So this is another option that companies like to do sometimes. Okay, so how can you get your hands on some of these? All right, here are my tips. Hear me out. Okay. The first thing that is the most important is that you need to have some sort of platform where you publicly discuss, share, talk about books. You need to have something like that. So whether that's a BookTube channel, whether that's a Bookstagram, Instagram account that centers around books, a book blog, something like that where you are publicly sharing books on a regular basis. The other thing is you need to have a decent following because publishers want to send these books out to people who are going to be able to spread the word to a decent amount of people. They are probably going to choose not to send a book out if you only have 200 subscribers to any given part. I would say anything over 500, maybe 1,000, start getting your name out there and start contacting people. But anything lower than that, it could be dicey. You could at least maybe start introducing yourself and sharing your platform and everything so publishers can kind of get an idea of who you are, but it may not be something, it may take a little bit more time and for you to get a little bit more established. There are certain publishers who do not send out books to anybody who has less than 10,000 subscribers. I've heard that a couple times when I have requested some things. So it just depends on the publisher and what they're willing to do. Another tip is to make sure you do your homework. Make sure you know what books are coming out from these publishers. Make sure you are excited to read them. Make sure you are requesting things that you would buy on your own. And, if something is coming out and you're like, I would go to the store on opening day or on release day and I would buy that, no problem. Those are the things that you're probably going to want to start requesting. And just, it helps if you know what's coming up. That way, when you do contact publishers, you can start talking about certain books. And that way they know that you know what they publish and you know what books you're looking for, and they can get a feel for what you like as well. The next step is to start emailing. That is how you get your name out there. That's how you start contacting publishers. And the way that I do this is I will find a book that I want to read. It's coming up. I know what it is. I want to read it for sure. And I will find that book usually on Amazon because Amazon will have those books available for pre-order fairly early. So I will find the Amazon page for that book. And if you scroll down and you look for the details of the book, it will have the publication date coming up. It will have the publisher on there. So I look and see who is the publisher of this. If it is a big publisher that I know of, I can just go to their website and try to find things. If it's a smaller imprint of a publisher, I kind of have to do a little bit of research. I need to Google it and then I can kind of find it from there. And every publishing website will have a contact list, and you kind of have to follow the directions on that. So usually it's a contact us page and it will say, for these imprints, here's who you contact. For review books, here's who you contact, things like that. So you kind of have to look at each individual book and see who the publisher is and then figure out from there who you need to contact. Once you find that contact person and you have an email address, then you write your email. And I usually always introduce myself. Even if it's someone I've worked with before, I always introduce myself because these people are in contact with, I'm sure, thousands of people every day. So I'm not expecting them to remember me personally. But I will start by introducing myself. I introduce my platform. I am a booktuber and I have a booktube channel and I talk about books. And then I talk about the types of books I like to read. And I will then request a specific book. So I say, I'm contacting you in hopes of receiving a copy of 99% Mine by Sally Thorne. Here's why I would like to read this book. If I've read any of her other work, I'll talk about how much I love that. And that's why I want to read this one, or just the reasons that I would want to read it. Also state your level of commitment, to reviewing this book. Would you be willing to review and have a review up before the release date? Would you like to have a review up on the release date or maybe the week of the release date? Whatever you're willing to put into it, make sure that they know so they can be expecting that. And definitely link all of your social media. I always have links to all of my social media on all of my emails. So I will link my booktube channel. I will link my Instagram, my Twitter, my Goodreads, my Facebook, I think, which I don't talk about books on my Facebook all that much, but all of my social media goes onto Facebook. It's kind of like automatically posted there, but anything on social media that you have a platform on, make sure that they have the links to that and that they can click it and they can see who you are. And always, always, always put your shipping address in it. I will end my email. I will say all the best, Sarah Swan, and I will have my shipping address on there. A lot of times, the publishers, if they want to send you a book or that it piques your interest enough that they're like, yeah, we can send her a book, they'll just send it to you and they already have your address. They don't have to write you back. They don't have to worry about trying to hunt down your address, trying to get back to you and all this stuff and you're going back and forth. If they have your address up front, it's more likely that they will just put that on a shipping label and get the book to you. So I always make sure I have my shipping address on all of my emails anytime I'm in contact with the publisher. After that, you got to sit back and you got to hope. That's really all you have to do. Once you send that email, sometimes you may get a response back. Sometimes you don't. Most of the time I haven't. Sometimes I've gotten an email back and that's been nice, but usually I don't. So I send out quite a few requests. If there's a books coming out that I'm really, really excited about, I'll send a request. And for the most part, I haven't gotten responses back. Sometimes I've gotten the book, sometimes I haven't. So I would go into it probably not expecting to hear anything back. And then if you do, it's a nice surprise. But yeah, you just got to sit back and hope for the best. So those are my tips for contacting publishers to get the advanced reading copies, like for them to personally send you a physical copy of a book. That's how I go about it. Now let's talk about options if you don't want to go through a publisher to do that, because there's options for that too. All right, so first we'll start with physical books. I have been able to get a hold of ARCs and review copies physically without going through the publisher. And I do this by using social media and some websites. The first one is bookishfirst.com. This is a website where you can create a profile and you can request books. Now, they have raffles every week. So they usually go up on Mondays. Right now, I think they only have one going up. So far, I've seen only one a week for 2019. I don't know if that's going to continue or if they're going to go back to 3 or 4, which is what the norm has been. But there will be a raffle for a book. You can look at the synopsis. You can download an excerpt of it, and that is usually the first few chapters. You can read through those, write a review of the first 3 chapters, and then you decide whether or not you want to be entered into the raffle in order to get a copy of this book. And it's always a physical book. There is an option for ebooks too if you prefer ebooks. I just prefer the physical, but you can write your little review based on what you read, and then you'll be entered into a raffle if that's what you choose to do. And then you have a profile set up where you have your address in there and everything. And then at the end of a week, I believe, they will pick winners. And if you're a winner, you're contacted, and the publisher will send that book to you. I've gotten quite a few books from Bookish First, which has been very, very exciting, and I've enjoyed them all, and I'm going to continue to use them for sure. Again, there is an option for ebooks on that as well, where you can get ebooks instead of physical books, and you just have to, whatever you prefer is on your profile. Another way that you can get early copies of books is to use social media. I would use both Facebook and Instagram for these. Twitter probably too. I'm not on Twitter very often, so I choose not to go there very much. But definitely Facebook and Instagram. Follow the publishers. They do giveaways all the time. All the time they do giveaways, especially on upcoming books. They will give away ARCs. They will give away finished copies. If they have a big release coming up, they will give away some of those. So make sure you are following the big publishers on Instagram. And I'm talking like Penguin, William Morrow, HarperCollins, a lot of their imprints as well. You can find them, if you follow one, things will pop up for suggested, and just start following them because they will give away books all the time. St. Martin's Press is a big one that does that, especially on Facebook. So follow them, make sure they show up in your feed, and you can have a lot of opportunities in order to win advanced reader copies. And the last one I want to talk about is for ebooks only. So if you have access to an e-reader, you can have an opportunity to get advanced copies of books as well. The biggest one is NetGalley.com. I use this all the time. I have a lot of NetGalley books to read. And what NetGalley is you create a profile and you kind of pick the genres that you're really, really interested in. And then you can go in there and you can search for available review copies. And you can search genres, and it will bring you up everything that is available. And a lot of them are big releases too, but they are going to be in digital form instead of a physical form. And all they ask you to do is, you have to request it, and then you do have to be approved. So there is that. You do have to go through that approval. You can't just say, I want this, and then you get it. You do have to be approved for it. But once you kind of find your footing on there and start getting some books and reviewing them, the more chances that you're going to be able to get the really big releases. And all that they ask is that you you read it and review it on their site, and that's it. So it's pretty easy. I do have a big backlist of books that I need to read for NetGalley for sure. But it's a wonderful, wonderful resource for review books as long as you can get them digitally. it's a really, really great option. Okay, I think that's it. I think I covered everything that had come to my mind when I was thinking about this topic and kind of my process for, getting things and doing all that. So if you have any other tips that you want to share with people, leave them down below so people can see in the comments. If you have any questions, please let me know and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can, and I will try to answer them as best I can. But that is how I personally go about trying to get review books and getting ARCs from the publishers and stuff. It does help that I have a BookTube channel that is growing, and they've been a little bit more willing to send me some things recently, which is nice. And once you get on their radar and once they kind of start sending you something, you can start getting on mailing lists, which is nice. So it just kind of helps the process go a little bit smoother. So that's kind of where I am at this point. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know if you have any questions again, and I will see you guys again soon. Have a great day. Bye.